Hold on, everybody. Oh my. Yeah, what this just wouldn't be back to the cast without some kind of major problem. In this case, I was actually asleep. I fell asleep about 20 minutes ago. Woke up and wife was saying, "Hey, oh, no audio. No audio. I'm seeing No, we got audio. Okay. Well, um but basically what happened, I fell asleep. Got up. I had like just enough time to come down here, restart the computer, supposed to, start to get everything set up, and then of course, um, just forgot that I had to put my special little headphones in instead of the cans that I normally wear. Very sorry. Uh, Basically, part of the reason why I am so freaking tired is last weekend, of course, was Macstock, and normally, no big deal if you were going to go from Washington D.C. to Chicago, Illinois, here in the States, you would fly. That would be what the normal person do. I, however, despise flying. I hate flying. And after my experiences last year, when a certain airline, United, my name, canceled my flight at the last minute and then put me on another flight, which got me to Chicago 6 hours, 7 hours later than I was actually supposed to be there, which also meant that the car that I was going to rent at an off site car rental place was closed, and I had to get the car directly there at the airport, which cost me probably $150 to $200 more than I had done. So that really didn't make me happy. So this year I figured, you know what, the hell with them. Hell with all of them. I'm going to drive it. Just last month, I went down to Florida with my son Peter, and the three of us drove, and it was, 11, 12-hour trip, which is about the same as it is between Chicago. The one thing I really take into account was the fact that I would be driving this time by myself, not have two other people available to drive. Real quick, before I get started on all the Macstock stuff, let's see we have here. We have Ronnie Greer. Is that right, Ron? Greer? Did I say that right? Okay. And we have, what, I'm going to put glasses on. I see better. Isaac Roldan Torres. Hello. How are you all? How are you both? And Warren, I thought you weren't going to be able to make it tonight. So here you are. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Well, the trip to Chicago was relatively uneventful. I got I got the rental car Wednesday morning. Started the drive probably about 9:30 once I got everything loaded up. And I actually made, considering I was by myself, I made pretty good time. I got all the way to Fremont, Indiana, which was almost uh, exactly 650 miles from my house until I stopped and got off at the hotel. I did that in about 10 and a half, 11 hours. Um, hey, John Honos. Hello. Hello. Your lips move when you speak. Gary Apter. Thank you. Yes, Gary, my lips do move when I speak. Anyway, so I got about 650 miles Wednesday, which was good because that meant that I only had about 250 miles to go the next day. So I got to Chicago relatively early, which was real good because I met up with Mike Potter, who is the creator and head muckamuck when it comes to Macstock. And he met me at the facility, the McHenry Community College, and I could get all of the stuff that I brought for Mac Swap out of the car and put that right there. So I didn't want to have to get up on Friday morning. Well, number one, I didn't want to leave all that stuff in the car at the hotel. You leave a bunch of, even if it's old stuff, you leave a bunch of stuff like that that looks like tech gear in a car, and people know it's there, and they might break into it. It was a rental, and the stuff was old, and I was just going to give it away. But I would rather somebody that was actually attending the conference get it than some low life idiot in the Chicago area, looking to break into somebody's car. So by getting it out of the car, I took all the temptations away. The other good thing was I saw Spider-Man: Homecoming on Thursday night after I got there, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's a great superhero. I had a whole lot of fun. It was one of those theaters too that's got the reclining seats that go all the way back. Oh my goodness! It was so great, so comfortable compared to the normal seats. Ed is here. Hey, Ed Eisen. Yo, 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 yo. So, so I saw Spider-Man on Thursday night. The next day, I drove to the airport much later in the afternoon, and I picked up Dave Hamilton. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the hosts of the Mac Geek Gab, which, as compared to the My Mac podcast, is actually a real tech podcast. He answers questions along with Mr. John F. Braun. And he was arriving at the same time as two of the other speakers for Macstock, Wally and Wendy. Oh, I'm going to mess up their names, Chewinski. So I brought all three of them from O'Hare Airport out to Woodstock because I'm just a super nice guy. And things worked out really well. The next day when the conference started, I set up all of my podcasting gear. I had my Alesis Multimix 4 USB mixer, two Audio Technica ATR 2100 microphones. Had a couple of headphones, of course, so I could listen back. And Tim and David used the whole setup to do a Tech Fan, if you listen to that podcast. And later on that day, John and Dave from the Mac Geek Gab and myself got together, and we did a combined Mac Geek Gab My Mac podcast. And what was kind of cool about it, it was My Mac podcast 665. 665. That means that this coming weekend is My Mac podcast 666. However, the Mac Geek Gab is currently one show ahead of us. So this was also the Mac Geek Gab 666. And it was kind of cool what we ended up doing. I was recording it on my laptop and my recording gear. And we recorded the My Mac podcast segment. Then we recorded a Mac Geek Gab segment. And then the three of us just kind of talked about Macstock in general, and saved it as a band file. And the band file had three distinct sections in it. Well, I gave the band file, made a copy of it, gave the band file to Dave from the Mac Geek Gab. And what he did was he took the Mac Geek Gab section, which we recorded second, put that in first, and then took the My Mac segment, put that in second, and then had the third part that we were talking about, Macstock. Well, for me, I put in the My Mac segment first, then the Mac Geek Gab section, and then the Macstock section. So it's the same podcast. It is the exact same podcast, just with a slightly different order. So that was a lot of fun. And thanks to Dave and John from the Mac Geek Gab for inviting me on. having me hopefully not ruin their show. But it was fun, and if you get a chance, you can listen to it from the My Mac side or the Mac Geek Gab side. Either way, it's going to be. So then, after lunch on that day, Tim Robertson and I did the My Mac quiz. We had a whole table all filled with prizes to give away, and the way that was going to work was you had to answer two questions that would come up on the big screen. And if you answered both questions correctly, you would win one of these prizes. We had some great prizes. Well, we had about 45 minutes to do the entire quiz, including some opening bits that we did familiar with it, because typically at a tech conference, um, people are kind of hesitant to put their hands up for the most part. People are, they're not timid, but they're just uncomfortable with kind of drawing attention to themselves. So we spent like the first 5 minutes or so kind of warming them up, some funny stuff and getting them all relaxed. So when we actually started doing the questions, we had enough um, physical prizes. We had some software licenses too, but we had enough physical prizes to give about 20 pieces of hardware. And we didn't want to take any of this stuff home. We wanted to give it all away. So the questions, some of them which were not easy, but everybody who stood up and put their hands up, we basically gave them a prize. If they couldn't figure out what the answer was, we would allow them to ask the entire group, the entire audience, and there was always somebody who knew what the answer was. Or I would kind of cover the microphone and the answer is this, 'cause we wanted everybody to win. We wanted everybody to have a really, really good time. And they did. And they did. So everybody won a prize and it was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do it again next year. I have to give all thanks to Tim Robertson for putting the presentation together and putting questions together. He did all that work. He was the Johnny Carson and I was the Ed McMahon. Absolutely no. But everybody had a really, really good time. That's the part that matters. So at the end of the day, when all the speakers had already spoken, the Midwest Mac Mingle, and this was at a separate location. It was in downtown Woodstock, and if you've ever seen the movie Groundhog's Day, that was actually filmed in downtown Woodstock. It wasn't in. But some of these towns, even though you look at a map, you think, oh, that's pretty close. The only way to get to some of these towns is to go through some of these back ass country roads. And if you don't know where you're going, and it's late at night, it can be a little scary. There was a woman there who. Well, let me talk about the mingle first. So that they had a live band. They had kind of like finger food and stuff like that. So nobody went away hungry. Uh, the band was okay. It's a small town bar band. But they really got into the spirit of it. They do like 70s songs, and the way they dress is kind of like in that 70s spirit with like funky, what do you call them? The blue jeans with the big open area, bell bottom jeans, cool colored shirts, and just all kinds of stuff like that. The whole thing was a lot of fun, which is what it was supposed to be. And probably that went on from 6:30 to 10:30. Well, about 9 o'clock, one of the attendees, very, very nice, sight impaired, wanted to go back to her hotel. Chelsea is her name. And she wasn't staying at the hotel we were at. They were at so-called official hotel Macstock, while I stayed at the same place I did last year. Um, and I was like, yeah, sure. It was late enough. I figured I'd give her a ride. So I'm taking her back to her hotel, and we're going down some of these streets, and there's no lights, there's no sign of life anywhere, there's no other cars in the area, and I don't know, for someone who has lived almost all of their life in a relatively urban area, to be in an area where you don't see house lights. There's no street lights. There's basically just lots of trees and a road real late at night. It can be a little unsettling. So, but I did get her back. Scary. I see Gary Apter says scary only as the banjos get loud. I hear banjos. I'm sorry. I'm stepping on the gas. I don't give a crap what the GPS says or what direction I'm supposed to go in. I'm getting the flock out of there. So, Sunday was pretty much the same. The conference was great. All the speakers were wonderful. As usual, I didn't get to see a whole lot of the speakers because I was, so obsessed with setting up the audio equipment, people if they want to use it. Um, but this is like the third year for Macstock. If you get the chance next year, it's gonna be going next year too. By 21st and 22nd, whatever that weekend is in 2018, they're doing it again, and it's going to be in the same location, and it's a very very nice facility at the the McHenry Community College. A nice auditorium that they have there, nice acoustics. All the people that you're going to meet there, they're all Mac heads and Apple fanatics, and everybody's great. Everyone's really friendly. Everyone has such a good time. Cost is relatively inexpensive. If you live here in the United States, it's Chicago. There's two major airports, and it's about an hour to an hour and a half away from either one of them. Check out. I don't know when Mike Potter is going to have the website up. Macstock 2018. I imagine he's still dealing with the fallout from Stock 2017. But check it out. You really should go if you. It's got the feel of the best part of the Macworld Expo, which that's it. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. Let's see. Did Leo show up with Tim Robertson? Leo did not show up, and Tim and I actually did. It's going to be over on Tim Robertson's feed. He started doing like a live cast from his phone, and you can bring in other people's phones. And so we talked to Allison Sheridan from the Nocilla cast a little bit. And then, even though I'm standing right next to him, turned on my phone, and there was a little bit of echo and a slight delay just because of everything that was going on, trying to do a live cast with other people. But we went out into the parking lot, and we're just doing all kinds of goofy crap out in the parking lot. But and then after everything was over, um, got up the next morning and had to say goodbye. So, um, met up with Melissa, the Mac mommy, and her husband, and their two kids. They were staying at the same hotel I was. David Cohen from My Mac was staying at the same hotel. Tim Robertson was at our hotel. Pretty much everybody else was at the official hotel. But it all worked out really really well. Then I started my drive. Now I did 650 miles out there. Mostly, I think, just because I was so excited and pumped up about going to the event that I was able to just keep on going. The way back, it felt a little bit okay. The event's over, and now I drive 900 miles or so to get back home. And I got from, I ended up, I left a little bit later than I would have, because no matter which direction you were going in, if from Woodstock, you pretty much have to go through the Chicago area. This was early in the morning, lots of traffic. So my choices were either to leave very early in the morning, which I didn't want, or leave like mid morning, which is what I did do. There was still a lot of traffic. Gary says you'll get to meet Guy Searle. What more could a person ask? More than that, definitely more. Um, I only got about 500 miles I got from Chicago to just outside of Pittsburgh, the Pennsylvania Turnpike. I hate taking that, but it's the shortest route. And just so tired. All I was getting. And then I finished the drive yesterday, Tuesday. Got home. I guess it was about 2:30 o'clock, and purposely stayed up as late as I possibly could, just because I knew if I fell asleep, I was going to have. And so I go to work today, and of course, 120 plus emails, and this same thing happens. You take a week, everything piles up. But I'll do it again next year, definitely next year. Let's see. Gary says my voice is dropping out. Let's did it again. Hold on. I wonder if it's because I'm going to take a quick look at the mixer or settings for audio. No, everything is okay. Look at the properties. Properties are fine. Let me look at filters. Okay, I've got a noise gate on. I wonder if part of it. Test 1 2 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3 4. If that's going to make any difference, let me. Okay, yeah, I think that should be better. All right, I'm going to close that. I think on that note, I'm going to take a little break. And when I come back, we're going to talk about some of the updates that basically just came out today. And we're going to talk about something that appeared on the site from Ronnie Greer. And then we'll pretty much close out the show from there. So everyone, please stand by. I'm not going to use that because that's what I use on the My Mac podcast. But we will be right back. So just hold on.
Everybody, please stand by. And, we'll be right back.
And welcome everyone back to the mymac.com podcast.
All right, so let's carry on. But
I'm still laughing about something that happened just before we started recording, and we're going to talk about that right now.
I don't know if you heard, Guy, but Sal Seguin. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that. He's leaving Apple. It's a tragedy for everybody.
Oh dear, this is not going well, is it? We are so childish.
We are.
Really are.
It's the G-Men on the mymac.com podcast. Okay, we are back. Hopefully there won't be any more audio issues, as there usually is. It just, I don't know why I have so much trouble with audio on this show. I mean, I've got decent gear. I think part of it is, of course, I don't always know what I'm doing. No surprise. And the other part of it is dealing with OBS, which is the software. And it's not exactly all that intuitive. I'm thinking maybe I need to use something like Audio Hijack Pro and set up a noise gate through that instead of trying to do it through OBS. But the great thing about the way I have it set up right now is, and you can't really see it, my mixer down here. Currently, my microphone going through my preamp, going through my mixer, is going directly to the computer and there's very little lag as we're talking. The more software you throw at something like this, the worse it gets. Like right now, with just everything that I have open right now, CPU usage within OBS is at almost 50%, and that's with 30 frames a second. I'm kind of hesitant to throw more stuff at it that it may create more problems than it may solve. But I do need the noise gate for things like my squeaky chair, and so that I'm not making a lot of noise when I'm on a break or coming out of the opening section or anything like that. But one of these days, I mean, this is only the 18th show, so we might get it figured out eventually, or I might get it figured out. So what's going on right now is there's a bunch of updates that have come out. We've got Mac OS 10.12 or 10.12.6, security and other small enhancements. And chances are, unless something major comes up, this will be probably the last update for Sierra before 10.13 is released. And by an amazing coincidence, we also have iTunes 12.6.2, which is minor app and performance update. We've got iOS 10.3.3, bug fixes and security update, watchOS 3.2.3, bug fixes and security update. And just to kind of change things up a little bit, we have TV OS 10.2.2, which is bug fixes and security update. And that's pretty much everything that Apple has, and all of this stuff is being updated, and it's probably the last updates we're going to see before iOS 11 and Mac OS 10.13 come out. A quick question: does anyone think it makes sense for Apple to update the iPhone SE? And for those of you who don't know what the iPhone SE is, it's the 4-inch phone, the same similar form factor as the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S, before they went to the 6 with with the bigger sizes for the phones. And I know that it was a relatively popular phone, and it had the same internals as the 6 and 6S, or I think as the 6 when it first came out. So it wasn't a slow phone. It was just a slightly smaller phone. And I mean, are there people that prefer the slightly smaller phone? Would you like to see the iPhone SE updated to go on to the next one? Let me know. And, we can talk about that on another Mac to the Future Go episode. If you'd like to talk about it, put it in the Mac to the Future Facebook page, and we can get a discussion going on there. That's probably the best place to do it. Now, speaking of the Mac to the Future Facebook page, Ronnie Greer posted, and it was either yesterday or today, and he was asking if he should upgrade his wife's iPad, and she currently has a 4th gen 6 with 16 gigabytes of storage with Retina display. She uses it all the time. Having that and an iPhone 6 Plus, that's the same phone I have actually, for her hardware, never uses a Mac. Her birthday is in less than 2 months. Do you think the current iPad is aging enough to warrant a new one? Would she notice a significant difference in performance with a new iPad, not a Pro iPad? She does Facebook, Safari, Netflix, nothing too spectacular. The iPhone 4th gen, I don't believe that was able to be updated to iOS 10. It certainly won't be able to be updated to iOS 11. That alone would make me say yes, go ahead and replace it. Especially also considering the fact that it only has 16 gigabytes. Now, you didn't say whether that was Wi-Fi only. I'm kind of guessing it was Wi-Fi only, or if it was a cellular one. You can pick up. I'm gonna bring up the Apple website real quick here, apple.com. This just makes for fascinating, so fascinating. And let's get some prices on the new regular iPad. Let's hit the buy button. Actually, let me bring this up. Okay. So you all should be able to see this. Yeah, I know. It's so fancy. I'd forgotten I had this. So I guess the color doesn't really matter. Let's go space gray. And if you go 32 gigs Wi-Fi, it's $329, which is not bad. The only other choice you have as far as storage goes is to bump it up to 128, which will take you to 429. Which honestly, this is for a device that, let's see, what's Apple Care on this? $99. Let's see. Come on. No, I don't want free engraving. Add to bag. I have no idea what that means. Review bag. Okay, so iPad Wi-Fi 128 space gray, no engraving, with Apple Care, $558.36. Take off $100 if you go with the 32 one, so that would be about $450 instead. So that's not bad. And that's with the brand new one. You could also go. Let's take a look at. Let's look at refurbs. iPad refurbs. And I wouldn't go with anything less than an iPad Air 2. So let me switch us back over there again. So here we are. We're at the. You could pick up an iPad Air 2 Wi-Fi 16 gigabyte gold for $319. Let's go up to 128. Now you see, now we're getting to the point where it really doesn't make that much of a difference. For an iPad Air 2 Wi-Fi 128 gigabyte, it's about $420. The brand new iPad 10.5 was about $450. So unless you want to go with less storage, and since you say her needs aren't all that, you could go with like a 64 gig iPad Air 2, which would be $379. So you're talking $80 off of a brand new one. And yes, you can get Apple Care with this and all the rest of that. So, I guess it kind of depends on what it is you think your wife needs. The iPad Air 2 will probably get security updates and OS updates for at least the next 2 to 3 years. The new iPad, the 10.5-inch iPad, will probably get updates, I'm guessing 3 to 4 years, probably 4 years, especially since this is a brand new device. How often do you actually need to swap out her stuff? She's using it in such a way that she's comfortable with the regular touch OS that it has. Some of the new features of iOS 11 that's going to make it more like a regular computer with the dock and everything else. And that's all activated by various touch gestures, or at least so far. Um, I don't know. Do you think that that's something that she might be interested in? If you're looking for the like longevity, the biggest bang for the buck is going to be the new iPad 10.5 inch. If you're looking just to replace it for a couple years and then thinking about replacing it again um, in 2 years or so, then I would say the iPad Air 2 with either 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage. That would be the best way to go. Again, this is something that you have to think about. If you were asking me, I think I would probably go for the new iPad, and that's based on my experiences with iOS. On the other hand, I used an iPad third gen for many years because what I wanted was a bigger screen, and Apple refused to give me one until the iPad Pro came out. I wasn't really all that concerned about it being a Pro because I don't use a pencil. I was mostly concerned with screen size and storage. So I liked the fact that I could get it with 128 gigs of storage and that it had the 12.9-inch screen. So that's what I would do. I would get probably the new one, knowing that it would be 4 years or so before you had to really worry about replacing it. So that's what I think, Ronnie. And Ronnie says that he's going to wait and see, maybe toward Christmas. Marcus Benjamin, hey, Marcus, what's going on, dude? Says that his Series 2 is a refurb, not a single issue. Yeah, Apple's refurbs are. I mean, I've never had a problem with Apple's refurbs. And for people who don't understand how all that works, it's not necessarily something that broke that went back to Apple. Sometimes people get Apple Gear, open it, and then almost immediately regret it. And with Apple's 2 to 3 week return policy, Apple will just give them back their money for it. Now, even if whatever they got back wasn't used because it had already been sold, they can't sell it as new. So what they do is they put it through their refurb process, which means that there's an actual human being that puts it through all of its paces to make sure that it's completely up to specs as far as what it's sold for as new. So that's an advantage right there as compared to getting a brand new thing from Apple. 99,000 times out of 100,000, you're not going to have a problem. But very rarely have people actually looked at these. It's all burned in by computer, it's all tested by computer, and then put into a box and shipped out from there. Whereas the refurbs, you actually have a human being that's looking at them. Anyway, I think that that is going to. Oh wait, hold on. Marcus Benjamin is watching this on a 10.5 256 iOS 11 public beta. Oh man, dude, I would love. It kills me that 6 months after I got my iPad Pro 128, that they updated it to 256 for essentially the same price. Yeah, that didn't make me real happy. But it is what it is. I'm not going to complain too much. And for now, 128 gigs is big enough. So I think that is going to do it for this evening. Thanks to everyone over in the live stream, Ronnie and Marcus, and let's see who else was over there. Oh, it doesn't say who's there right now. Warren, Gary, Marcus, Wang, Oscar. Oscar, I didn't see you in there, dude. Isaac, Ronnie, thanks to everybody who showed up. Really do appreciate it. I saw you, Paul. I'm not going to forget about you. Don't worry. Please remember, if you'd like to tell me how the show went, or if you'd like to just send me a private message, you can reach me guy@mttfgo.com. And of course, you can contact me through Facebook on the Mac to the Future page. You can also contact me on the Twitters. My handle there is MacParrot. And we have a Skype number that we typically use for the mymac.com podcast, but nobody that listens to that show seems to know how to use a telephone. Maybe you guys will be better at it. That's 703-436-9501. And I will see you all next week. Should be at the same time, same bat channel here on the Mac to the Future page on Facebook. We will do another live cast, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And let's see if I can find, there it is, close credits. Good night, everybody.